سلام علیکم. دلم تنگ شده. فارسی هم صحبت نمی کنم. I'm sorry I've forgotten most of the Farsi that I ever knew. You are getting together this weekend in Washington to remember the Iranian National Ballet. It's now 35 years since the Iranian Revolution swept across Iran and took the Iranian National Ballet in its wake, took the dancers, deposited them all over the world like so much flotsam and jetsam. And since then, it has been impossible to perform classical ballet in Iran. I would like to remember, and I'm sure that's why you are getting together this weekend, is to remember the times before the revolution, the times which were wonderful, and what a wonderful company we actually had in Tehran. I remember arriving in Tehran in the afternoon in 1974, and in the early evening walking down Shah Reza and feeling immediately that I was at home. In some funny way, I felt that I'd been there before. Well, of course, that's impossible. I hadn't been there before. But somehow there was something immediately that actually grabbed me and was probably helped quite a lot by the fact that all around me people were speaking Farsi, and every few words that I heard them say ballet, 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 well, I thought, yes, well, I've come to the right place here, haven't I? Everybody's crazy about ballet. Of course, very very soon I learned that ballet is Farsi affirmative. Yeah. But and then I remember the Rudaki Hall, going in there and going up in the elevator to the floor which was the ballet floor, and there was this enormous studio. And now that I'm involved still in classical ballet and a little bit in the organization and production of classical ballet, as well as performing and teaching, I realize what an amazing organization it was in Rudaki Hall. It was a complete professional opera house producing classical ballet, producing opera, producing symphony concerts, and of course, folklore and many other things as well. I don't remember how it happened, and it always amazes me. We would arrive on the stage, and we would dance the full-length Swan Lake, the full-length Romeo and Juliet, the full-length Sleeping Beauty, the full-length Giselle, the full-length Coppelia, the Bijan and Manege, and then and also Fountains of Bakhchisarai, and then on top of all that, there would be Serenade, Miss Julie, and Carmina Burana after Eden. And all this seemed to happen in one small studio, which for me, now we have an absolutely enormous studio here in Tel Aviv at the moment. It wasn't such a small studio, no, it really wasn't, but it was one studio. So what feats of organization and ballet masters managed in that time produce is amazing. Well, actually, I think that we did have another studio up in the Avaran by the school, because I remember going up there to rehearse Jamshid's ballet, Danse Macabre, and we would go up there, the boys would go up there, and they would take class with Monsieur Robert, and then continue with rehearsals of Dance Macabre. And I think the girls stayed back down in Rodaki Hall and were probably doing Chopiniana at that time in the same program. I'm afraid I really don't remember exactly. Yes, well, I went down on the stage, and there I had a costume, I had shoes, makeup, everything, and I went on stage, and there in the pit sat an orchestra playing the music. Well, where did they come from? You know, where did they rehearse? You know, we had a conductor, Tibor, and another one, David Garforth. Well, it was amazing. You know, it was so many different aspects of organization which would come together in a performance. And like I say, it was a repertoire. It was a very broad and amazing repertoire, which an enormous number of medium-sized ballet companies today would be proud to preserve and to own. Yeah, all of that was swept away in the tsunami of the Iranian Revolution. I remember having so many good times in the company. I think any of you who've been in other companies will agree with me that a ballet company is always a family, and a family that help each other. I remember once, I think we'd been a few of us had been on a trip to the Caspian Sea, and I'd eaten sturgeon kebab, which wasn't very good, and so I had tear-around tummy, and I was falling on the floor and fainting and doing all nasty things, yeah, horrible things. And Jamshid took me to a clinic up on, I don't remember the name of the street at the moment, it was uptown a little bit. I think it was opposite the Parquet Farah. And yeah, staying with me there while I got drips in my arm and injections and various other things, and taking me home again afterwards. Very, very kind, very considerate. I remember the period leading up to the actual revolution, when the dancers sometimes were unable to go into the theatre, and they would gather in each other's apartments, somewhere where there was a large space, where they could do a few tendus and pliés and things to keep in shape. We had a ballet mistress at that time, an Irish lady, and she would run around and say, well, come on, you've got to keep in shape, because there are performances scheduled for next month, and we have to be ready to do them. And she was actually a very lovely lady. I remember her, I invited her to come to my place for lunch on one Friday. And she said, oh, no, I couldn't go out on the street. It's not safe to go out on the street. And I said, no, it's fine. You just need to be incognito. Okay, so come the Friday, and I lived in an apartment on a rooftop, and I went out onto the roof and looked over the edge. And there I saw Deirdre coming down the couche in a long mink coat, floor-length mink coat, with a bandana all the way up and around her hair, looking like Carmen Miranda. Across her face, like this, and enormously high heels tottering down the couche, surrounded by a lot of very, very raucous young men. So, that's a little memory I have from that time. The other memories, unfortunately, are not so wonderful. I remember those days when there appeared to be millions on the street, demonstrating, walking. I remember watching the procession which started probably at 7 o'clock in the morning and was still going at 3, 4, 5 o'clock in the afternoon. Black-clad women, black-clad men marching across the overpass where Shah Reza crossed over the top of Ferdowsi, shouting Bigumar Basha, Bigumar Basha, death to the king. Well, you know, we thought, yes, it's a force and possibly it will succeed, but it will succeed and we will have a republic here in Iran. And that will be wonderful because the arts will flourish and we will be able to go forward and expand. Well, in hindsight, we know that didn't happen. So I wish you all a really wonderful, wonderful weekend. Enjoy yourselves. Have memories. Arieh Nejad, Madam Aida, Arieh Ali Pufaroch, all the dancers, all of you gathered there. I love you all. Khud Hafiz.